Alright, so pre-release 2 for update 6 is already here, and it has a lot of cool stuff. Here's everything that you need to know about it. So one of the biggest thing is that they removed something called template_aggressive_zombies. That's basically the old combat behavior system for zombies, which is now fully replaced with something called template_predator. And what that means is actually that zombies are no longer just normal enemies. This new predator behavior is a little bit more dynamic. It's meant to make hostile NPCs behave less like basic AI and more like actual hunters, let's say that. NPCs can now spawn with multiple entities effects active at the same time. So, instead of an NPC being like, this one has poison, or this one has speed, you can now get combinations. So it's gonna be a little bit tricky, as you might fight something that's fast, or has poison attacks, or can regenerate. That sounds pretty fun, not gonna lie. They also added new death visual effects for NPCs, so that's also pretty fun, and it gives the game quite a bit of character. Another new template is template_flying_aggressive, which is basically a new framework for flying hostile enemies that can do ranged attacks. This is a bit important because it replaces a bunch of older systems, such as template_I, template_spirit, and template_seeker. So basically, they are cleaning up the old enemy systems with more flexible systems. So basically, they just remade the flying system to be more advanced. They added something called Graph System for World Gen V2. This is still in development, but it's basically a way to structure how terrain and world features are generated using graph-based logic. It sounds a bit technical, and that's because it actually is. But in simple terms, world generation is getting more modular and controllable. So instead of hard-coded terrain rules, they're moving towards systems where generation is built from interconnected logic nodes. So this is why they added some new tools such as white noise density, transparent material provider, directional jitter, and vector offset positions. And also a new set of vector providers: adder, cross, multiplier, normalizer, random, and more. So basically, they're expanding how vectors can be manipulated for world gen. It sounds kinda huge for devs, but I'm not really sure, because I'm not a nerd. Oh, and there's also an explosive block component now. So certain blocks can now be designed with built-in explosive behavior, and will be definitely used in the future for new features, which is a bit exciting. They added a very interesting addition, which is wilderness tracking system. This one is actually pretty cool, because it basically tracks where your home is, or where the wilderness begins, based on where your bed locations are. And now for some modding and creative tools. First of all, projectiles can now have their spawn position rotate depending on the firing entity. So basically, if you're firing a projectile from a moving or rotating character, the spawn behavior can now align properly. They also improved soft collision systems, basically how entities bump into each other, so it takes hitboxes into account. And they also added a Texture Atlas API, which now respects item model overrides in previews, which is just a fancy way of saying what you see in the editor can now actually match what you see in-game. There's been a little bit of an audio rework. They've completely reworked the audio bus and docking system, so when multiple sounds play at once, the game now better decides which sound should quiet down so things don't turn into chaos. They've also added some new ambient and interaction sounds. Walking and landing on sticks now has proper audio. Treasure blocks have new break sounds. Cactus blocks got a full sound set for walking, landing, hitting, and braking. And of course, they also fixed a bunch of bugs. So yeah, this update is kinda laying down a pretty cool foundation for the future. But for normal players, it's not that big. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.